Hello and welcome to Got Clutter, Get Organized, a conversation. See, I'm excited over here because I have Annie Allen, who is a fellow professional organizer. And you know how I get when I get to talk to somebody who is also in my field. So, Annie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here too.
So, today we're going to talk about just how to get your kids organized for the back to school season. But before we get into that topic, Annie, I always like to ask this question. What made you decide to get into the field of professional organizing?
Well, it's kind of a funny story because I came at it from the back door. I was at a point in my life where I was in a transition and I was looking for work, had stayed home with my kids for a while, so it's kind of like getting restarted and feeling like I'm at the bottom of the ladder, so to speak. And an acquaintance just happened to mention the field of professional organizing in passing. I wasn't even telling her I was looking for something, and I said, "Wait, people pay people to organize their stuff? Like I do that all day long." So that's how it started. And it's just been a perfect fit for me. I love the work. I was looking for something that I was skilled at, but I could also help people. So this to me is just a win-win dream job.
Oh, that is so wonderful. So, Annie, we're here talking about back to school. Sometimes it seems like you just kind of, snap your fingers and it's that time of year again. So, what are some of the challenges that parents face because they're all saying the same thing? Our kids need to get organized. Our kids are to use that S word, a slob, and all of those things. So, what are some of the challenges that parents face when they are looking at the stuff in their kids' bedrooms?
Yeah, I think the most common things I hear are, stuff isn't put away. It's stuff's on the floor. And, it depends on the age, things, but I'd say the main complaints are things aren't being put away or the floor is the storage unit, right? And I think it really depends on the age of the kids, what your expectations, where you need to set your expectations needs to be age appropriate. But I think the challenges that I see is really too much stuff. It's too much stuff
Mm.
in the room. And there have been more and more studies that show that we are overwhelming our kids with the stuff in their room. So it's not only the amount of stuff, it's the type of stuff. So if your room, if you look at the purpose of a bedroom, it's probably you got to sleep in there. You've got to get dressed in there. So you need to store bed and those supplies and the things you need to get dressed in the morning. But maybe the toys, TVs, electronics, maybe the bedroom isn't the best place to store those things. So it's the location and it's the type of stuff and the age.
Mm. And as I was sharing with you earlier, I worked with a client. She called me in to help her sons get organized. And I discovered because the younger son was getting all the older son's hand me downs, he had so much stuff, he didn't even have a place to put it in his bedroom. So you're right. Sometimes it is, they just have so much stuff. And like you said, you brought up a really good point. They got the TV, they got the games, of course, they got to have the school work, and they got to have this, that, and the other. So, what are some strategies for parents that they can help them and help their children be a little bit more organized this school year, but also beyond?
Yeah, I think it's important to really look at the process of purging with our kids. I mean,
Mm.
we like you brought up a good point. We want to say the hand-me-downs, they're in good shape, but you got to look at the younger child. Does he need this? Is it too big for him? Can it be stored somewhere else? Or do we just pass it along? We already have enough. I think sometimes I have found when I'm working with kids that it's the parents that are really the ones holding on to stuff. The kids that I've worked with are really quick at making decisions. They know what they
Can we
want, they know
li-
what they like, they know what they need. Whereas the parents are like, you're going to give a baby boo boo. Oh my goodness. We bought that at Disneyland and they have all this attachment to it. So it's important to remember, studies show that kids do better with less. The average American home, they say, has 193 toys. Way too much for a kid. If we go into our child's room and we feel overwhelmed, you can bet they also feel that way. They just might not be able to articulate it. So I would say first purge, choose certain times of year before the school year, not the night before, but before the school year. That's a great time to purge. Christmas or holidays are another great time to purge. It just certain times of the year, seasonal, 4 times a year, something like that. Kids grow and develop quickly, so their needs change. And as parents, we need to really set the boundary. And again, be age appropriate. Maybe for your teenager, the boundary is nothing is stored on the floor. Okay. And that might mean they wad it up and put it in a basket, but that's still better than the floor. Set your expectations. For a 7-year-old, they may need like a smaller list of items to do. Like, your PJs always get put in this drawer, and you need to help them learn how to do that. But it has to start with less stuff. So I'd say the number one thing to help your kids be organized is reduce the amount of stuff in their room and take out the distractions. Clutter is a distraction. TV and electronics are distractions. Look at the purpose of the room: sleeping, getting dressed, maybe reading books before bed, and keep those items stored in the room. Maybe,
Wow.
depending on the space that a person has in their home, they may not have a playroom and such, but you can still hide some of those distractions under the bed bins or something like that. Don't have it all out. It's too distracting.
Wow, 193 toys. That's
Yes.
a lot. That's a lot. And that can be overwhelming. And I love your suggestion about before the school year, get rid of some things, but also before the holiday season, as they're getting gifts, to get rid of things as well. That's a good idea. But one of the things you said, and it really made me think, and because it's a friend, she has I think she has 6 kids. They're all adults now. But I remember her going through that process of trying to give the hand-me-downs, and the youngest one was like, "I can't fit it." She was trying so hard. She said, "It's gotta fit. What happened? You grew." But it's those things as well. So you're right. It's like going through because they just tend to just give them without even kind of going through and like, "Oh, is this what they can really fit?" and things like that. So that was an excellent, excellent idea. So, Annie, and all that you do for your clients, for your family, for your community, how do you stay organized? Like, what are your tips and tricks?
I'd say definitely I'm a purger, and I have 3 kids. They're all grown up now, but I do remember there was a time where I was like, is everyone done with this book? Like, are we done with this phase? Let's just, let's move it out. Let's move it out. We got too much stuff in here. So it was definitely purging and corralling. Like, I always like to use an example. I read it somewhere. I didn't come up with this, but if someone said, Janet, here's a fork in the bathroom, you'd know right away the fork doesn't belong in the bathroom. It goes in this specific drawer in the kitchen in this little slot. And really, that's how everything we have should be in our home. So clutter develops when we don't have a home for something. So I take off my glasses, I set them here. I can't find them because I just set them here and it's in a pile of other stuff. But if I know my glasses go on my desk by the phone, then I know every time I'm looking for my glasses, I go to that spot. So that's how I stay organized. And I do have some piles. We all have a little pile of clutter. It's just when it starts to add up, you're like, okay, time to take a break and find a home for this stuff. So purge and always find a home. Those are my 2 secrets. Not so secret, but
And I understand it's like sometimes people think because we are organizers that our house is like neat. There's nothing out of place. I remember friends were coming over and they saw a cup in my sink. And I said, "Well, I just had tea." "Well, we would think that you would have." I said, "I'm not going to do a whole load just for one cup. I'm
right.
just putting it in the sink until something else." So thank you so much. But yeah, those were some great strategies, and I'm hoping that all of you watching and listening will really think about it, think about some of the things you can do. Think about purging. Maybe just start by purging because
Yeah.
I know you're kind of overwhelmed with all the list for the sports, the list for the supplies, the list for the uniforms. So thank you. So Annie, how can people connect with you?
Oh, thanks, Janet. My business is called Annie the Organizer. I am in California Central Coast, and my website is annietheorganizer.com. And from there, you can find me on social media. And
Wonderful. And of course, listeners, I will have all of Annie's links to her website, to her social media, so you can connect with her directly. Annie, thank you so much for your time. It is so greatly appreciated.
thanks for having me, Janet. I appreciate it.